June 13th, 1777. The shores of the Bouquet River, on the western edge of Lake Champlain. General John Burgoyne stands on the deck of his flagship, watching nearly 8,000 men load into more than 200 bateaux, gunboats, and longboats stretching for miles across the water. Bands play. Regimental colors snap in the wind. Native scouts in war paint stand beside German dragoons in tall brass helmets who have no horses yet to ride. Burgoyne, a playwright, a gambler, a man London newspapers call Gentleman Johnny, has just issued a proclamation so grandiose that colonial printers will reprint it for laughs. He promises to unleash thousands of Indian warriors upon anyone who resists him. He believes, completely, that this campaign will be over by autumn. It will be over by autumn. Just not the way he thinks. Because in 4 months, this same army, cannons, muskets, silk-lined officers' tents and all, will stack its weapons in a field and walk into captivity, and the British Empire will lose, in a single afternoon, an entire field army it can never replace. So how does a force this large, this confident, this well-supplied, end up surrendering whole in the woods of upstate New York? And why did that surrender do more to win American independence than any single victory before it? By the summer of 1777, the American war has dragged on for 2 years with no decisive result. Washington's army survived Trenton and Princeton but is still ragged, underfed, and outnumbered. British strategists in London believe the rebellion's center of gravity is New England, and they believe if they can sever New England from the rest of the colonies, the rebellion will starve itself out. The plan is simple in theory. 3 British forces converge on Albany, New York, from 3 directions. Burgoyne drives south from Canada down the Lake Champlain-Hudson corridor. A smaller column under Colonel Barry Street Ledger pushes east through the Mohawk Valley. And General William Howe, commanding the main British army in New York City, moves north up the Hudson to meet them both. It's a good plan. It has exactly 1 flaw, and nobody in London catches it before the ships sail. Nobody actually orders how to go north. Burgoyne doesn't know this yet. He's already moving. John Burgoyne was born in 1722, the son of a minor gentry family, and by most accounts, not even the son of the man whose name he carried. He eloped as a young officer with the daughter of an earl, was disowned for it, fled to the continent to escape his debts, and clawed his way back into respectability through sheer performance. That hunger for vindication is the formative wound underneath every decision Burgoyne is about to make. It's why he moves fast, publicly, dramatically. It's why he can't afford to look cautious. On July 5th, 1777, Burgoyne's forces occupy the high ground of Sugarloaf Hill above Fort Ticonderoga. American commander Arthur St. Clair evacuates in the night rather than lose his entire garrison. Ticonderoga falls without a real fight. Because the fort falls too easily, critics in Parliament, expecting a bloody siege, start to wonder what Burgoyne is actually up against. He now believes the rebellion in the north is collapsing. He pushes on toward the Hudson with growing boldness, and he makes the decision to advance overland, dragging his army and its enormous artillery train through nearly 20 miles of dense wilderness that the retreating Americans have deliberately wrecked behind them. Trees felled across every road, bridges burned, streams dammed into swamps. It will take Burgoyne's army 3 weeks to cover those 20 miles. Every one of those days is a day the Americans use to gather strength he does not yet know exists. His native allies, promised glory and plunder, are growing restless and, after an incident where a British Allied war party kills and scalps a young woman named Jane McCrae, the backlash across the New York countryside is immediate. Farmers who had stayed neutral start picking up muskets. So on August 11th, he makes the decision that starts the unraveling in earnest. He detaches roughly 800 men, mostly unmounted Brunswick dragoons under Lieutenant Colonel Friedrich Baum, and sends them east toward Bennington. On August 16th, Stark's militia surrounds Baum's column on a hill above the Walloomsac River. When the smoke clears, Burgoyne has lost close to 900 men, killed, wounded, or captured. On the 6th, a relief force of roughly 800 American militia under General Nicholas Herkimer marches straight into a devastating ambush at Oriskany. Herkimer takes a musket ball through the leg early in the fighting and, propped against a beech tree, calmly smoking his pipe, continues directing his men. Benedict Arnold sends a mentally disabled loyalist prisoner named Hunyost Schuyler ahead into St. Ledger's camp, coat riddled with musket holes for effect, to spread wild, terrified rumors that an overwhelming American army is approaching. St. Ledger's native allies, already exhausted from Oriskany's casualties, begin melting away. Without them, St. Leger's siege collapses. He retreats to Canada. Two of the three prongs of Britain's plan are gone. By mid-September, Burgoyne's army, now down to roughly 6,000 effective troops, crosses to the west bank of the Hudson River near Saratoga and burns the bridge of boats behind them. Waiting for him, dug into high ground above a bend in the river called Bemis Heights, is the American Northern Army, roughly 8,000 men, now under the command of General Horatio Gates. His chief field engineer, a Polish volunteer named Thaddeus Kosciuszko, has fortified the heights brilliantly. And under Gates serves Major General Benedict Arnold. On September 19th, Burgoyne advances in 3 columns to probe the American left, and the fighting erupts around a forest clearing owned by a farmer named Freeman, the Battle of Freeman's Farm. For nearly 4 hours, British regulars and American riflemen under the frontier marksman Daniel Morgan trade volleys across the same open ground. By dusk, the British technically hold the field. They've also lost roughly 600 men to the Americans' 300. The relationship between Gates and Arnold, already tense, breaks entirely in the days that follow. Burgoyne, meanwhile, is trapped. He's dug in, waiting, hoping for word that Sir Henry Clinton is coming to relieve him, running out of food, running out of days, running out of options, decides he has to attack again. October 7th, 1777. Late morning. Burgoyne sends roughly 1,500 men forward on a reconnaissance in force toward the American left, hoping to find a gap. There is no gap. There is Daniel Morgan's Rifleman and Paws Brigade, waiting. British Brigadier General Simon Fraser rides along the line on a grey horse, trying to rally the wavering ranks. Morgan's sharpshooters mark him instantly. Fraser is hit in the stomach. He falls from his horse and is carried from the field. And then, without orders, without a command, in open defiance of Gates, Benedict Arnold gallops onto the battlefield anyway. Witnesses describe him as half-wild, seizing control of unit after unit. He personally leads the assault that breaks the Balcarres redoubt. He turns and leads another charge against the Breyman redoubt, and as the position collapses, Arnold's own horse is shot from under it and falls on him, shattering the same leg he'd been wounded in 2 years earlier at Quebec. The Breyman redoubt falls. The British right flank is gone. Retreat. That night, in the rain, through the mud, Burgoyne pulls what's left of his army back toward the village of Saratoga, and the Americans surround him. For 10 days, Burgoyne holds councils of war in the rain while American artillery shells his camp and his men eat the last of their horses. On October 17, 1777, John Burgoyne rides out to a field near the Hudson and formally surrenders his entire army to Horatio Gates. Roughly 5,800 British, German, and Loyalist troops stack their arms that day. An entire British field army walks into captivity in a single autumn afternoon, and not one American soldier fires a shot to make it happen. In Paris, Benjamin Franklin has spent 2 years trying to convince the French court that the American rebellion is a cause worth betting on. News of Saratoga arrives in December 1777, and the hedging stops. Within months, France recognizes American independence outright and signs a formal treaty of alliance. Saratoga doesn't win American independence by itself. Yorktown is still 4 years away. But without Saratoga, there almost certainly is no French Navy blockading the Chesapeake in 1781, and without that, there is almost certainly no Yorktown. John Burgoyne returned to England to face a firestorm of criticism, resigned his American command in disgrace, and never held field command again. Died in 1792, his greatest campaign remembered, as the moment Britain lost the war. Simon Fraser died of his wound the morning after Bemis Heights and was buried, at his own request, inside the Great Redoubt at sunset, under artillery fire from both sides that paused, briefly, out of respect. Nicholas Herkimer's leg wound from Oriskany was amputated 10 days later. The surgery went badly. He bled to death, still smoking his pipe by most accounts, still giving instructions to the men around him. Horatio Gates, riding the fame of Saratoga, was given command of the entire Southern Theater in 1780, and led the American army to one of its worst defeats of the war at Camden, fleeing the field so fast on horseback that he reportedly outran his own retreating soldiers. Benedict Arnold's shattered leg never fully healed. 3 years later, in 1780, that grievance curdled into betrayal. He died in London in 1801, wealthy, exiled, and, by his own admission, despised on both sides of the ocean he'd crossed too many times. Daniel Morgan went on to command the American victory at Cowpens in 1781. And the man whose ruse fooled an entire relief column at Fort Stanwix, Hunyost Schuyler, simply vanishes from the historical record afterward. If you ever stand on those heights above the Hudson today, the field is quiet. Farmland, forest, a monument with an empty pedestal where Benedict Arnold's statue should be, deliberately left blank, engraved only with the words Major General, his name too toxic to carve.